This episode doesn't just move the story forward, it quietly proves that Landman Season 2, Episode 6 is better than the entire season so far. Not louder, not flashier, just sharper, heavier, and far more dangerous. Because in this episode, nobody explodes, nobody dies, and yet everything that matters begins to fall apart. Trust shifts. Power changes hands. And the people who thought they were in control suddenly realize they're not even close. Episode 6 isn't about oil, contracts, or money anymore. It's about who survives when loyalty runs out. And that's exactly why it works so well. Episode 6 opens with the consequences of everything that was said and done before finally settling in. And the weight of it hits Tommy first. For the first time this season, he's not reacting, fixing, or saving someone else. He's watching his influence slip away in real time. Cammy doesn't come to him for guidance anymore. She doesn't ask for permission. She doesn't even explain herself. The woman who once relied on Tommy to translate chaos into clarity is now making moves without him. And worse, she's doing it while Galliano stands right beside her. You can feel the shift immediately. Tommy is still in the room, but the room no longer belongs to him. Every conversation feels colder. Every decision feels final. And what makes it even more unsettling is that Tommy sees exactly where this is going, but for the first time, he can't stop it. He knows Galliano isn't just offering solutions. He's slowly replacing him. Not by force, not by confrontation, but by positioning himself as the calm answer to Cammy's fear. And fear, right now, is controlling everything. Cammy, on the other hand, is operating purely on survival instinct in this episode, and that's what makes her choices both understandable and terrifying. She's not being reckless for the sake of power. She's being reckless because backing down would mean admitting that she's already lost. The company isn't just a business to her. It's grief. It's legacy. It's the last thing connecting her to her husband. And Episode 6 makes it painfully clear that she would rather gamble everything than surrender even a piece of that. Every time someone mentions risk, lawsuits, or consequences, she hears one thing only: failure. And Galliano knows this. He doesn't pressure her. He doesn't argue. He simply reassures her that she's right to fight, that she's strong for pushing back, that she deserves control. And slowly, almost invisibly, he becomes the voice she trusts most. Not because he's honest, but because he tells her what she needs to hear in order to keep going. Meanwhile, Tommy's warnings start to sound less like wisdom and more like resistance. That's the cruel irony of Episode 6. Tommy is still right. He's still the smartest person in the room. But being right doesn't matter when the person in charge doesn't want the truth anymore. And the episode does an incredible job showing how isolating that realization is for him. He's not angry. He's not explosive. He's exhausted. Every attempt he makes to slow things down is brushed aside. Every concern is framed as negativity. And the worst part is that Galliano doesn't even have to lie much. He just reframes Tommy's caution as fear, his experience as outdated thinking, and his loyalty as control. By the end of the episode's first half, Tommy isn't just losing influence, he's being quietly rewritten as the problem. At the same time, Episode 6 deepens Cooper's storyline in a way that finally feels earned. Gone is the fantasy of fast money and easy success. What replaces it is responsibility, and Cooper clearly isn't ready for it yet. His relationship with Ariana moves forward at full speed, but now the weight of that decision starts to sink in. This episode isn't about romance for him, it's about realization. Realizing that love isn't just passion, that marriage isn't just commitment, and that stepping into a ready-made family means growing up immediately. The moments where Cooper is forced to confront Ariana's child are quiet, but powerful. There's no dramatic speech, no big breakdown, just hesitation, just uncertainty. And that uncertainty mirrors everything else in his life. Business, love, family, he rushed into all of it believing confidence was enough. Episode 6 proves that confidence without understanding always collapses eventually. What makes this episode better than the rest of the season is how tightly everything connects. No storyline exists in isolation anymore. Cooper's struggle with responsibility reflects Cammy's refusal to let go. Tommy's loss of control mirrors the company's descent into instability. And Galliano stands in the middle of it all, smiling, patient, and completely aware that he doesn't need to rush. Because when people are afraid of losing everything, they hand power away willingly. Episode 6 understands that real tension isn't created by explosions or betrayals. It's created by silence, by decisions, The time episode 6 reaches its later moments, the tension no longer feels like it's building. It feels like it's closing in. There's no escape route left for anyone, especially Tommy. What makes this episode so heavy is that nothing explodes outward. Everything collapses inward instead. Tommy doesn't lose his position through a single argument or dramatic firing. He loses it through distance. Cammy doesn't push him away directly. She simply stops pulling him close. And that difference matters. Every interaction between them feels colder, shorter, more formal. The trust that once allowed Tommy to speak freely is gone, replaced by polite acknowledgement and quiet dismissal. And the more he tries to reinsert himself, the clearer it becomes that the space he once occupied has already been filled. Galliano is always there now, not hovering, not interfering, just present enough to matter. He positions himself as support, as reassurance, as someone who doesn't challenge Cammy's authority, but reinforces it. And that's the moment Tommy realizes the real danger. Galliano isn't trying to take Cammy's power. He's making himself essential to it. That's far worse. What truly elevates episode 6 is how it forces Tommy to confront something he's never had to face before. Irrelevance. He spent his life being necessary. The man with the answers. The man who steps in when things fall apart. But now, Cammy believes she has answers of her own. And even if those answers are wrong, she prefers them to doubt. The episode lingers in that discomfort, showing Tommy standing on the outside of conversations that used to revolve around him. He sees decisions being made faster, riskier, and without the safety nets he would have insisted on. And yet, no one asks him to intervene. No one asks him to fix it. That silence is devastating because it tells him everything he needs to know. His authority didn't vanish overnight. It was slowly eroded by confidence, fear, and the promise of control. At the same time, Cooper's internal conflict reaches a boiling point in this episode. The excitement that once drove his decisions has been replaced by anxiety. The reality of marriage, parenthood, and responsibility is no longer theoretical, it's immediate. And for the first time, Cooper doesn't respond by pushing forward blindly. He hesitates. He questions himself. He wonders whether love alone is enough to carry him through what's coming next. Episode 6 treats this hesitation with surprising maturity. It doesn't mock him for it. It frames it as necessary. Because unlike earlier episodes, Cooper is finally learning that speed doesn't equal strength. And that lesson hurts, especially when everyone around him seems so certain about what he should do. Meanwhile, Galliano continues tightening the web around both Cammy and Tommy without either of them fully realizing how trapped they're becoming. He speaks differently to each of them, telling each exactly what they need to hear to keep them divided. To Cammy, Tommy represents caution and delay. To Tommy, Cammy represents pride and emotional decision-making. And Galliano stands comfortably between those two narratives, benefiting from both. This episode doesn't paint him as chaotic or explosive. It paints him as patient, calculated, confident, the kind of man who wins not by force, but by letting others exhaust themselves first. And that's what makes him so terrifying, because by the time anyone realizes what he's done, it will already be too late to stop him. Episode 6 also makes it clear that the company itself is no longer stable, even if it appears functional on the surface. Decisions are being made faster than they can be supported. Risks are being accepted without full understanding. And loyalty is being replaced by convenience. This isn't just a business crisis anymore. It's a moral one. Who do you trust when the person in charge refuses to listen? Who do you follow when the safest voice is pushed aside? And what happens when everyone believes they're doing the right thing, but those right things contradict each other completely? These questions hang over the episode like a storm cloud, and they're never fully answered. Instead, they sit there, heavy and unresolved, making it clear that the fallout from episode 6 hasn't even begun yet. This episode doesn't deliver consequences, it plants them. And that's exactly why it feels so much stronger than anything that came before it. By the time episode 6 reaches its final moments, there is no doubt left about one thing. Nothing can go back to the way it was. This episode doesn't end with closure. It ends with certainty. Certainty that the lines have been crossed, certainty that trust has been broken, and certainty that the damage done here will echo through the rest of the season. Tommy stands at the center of that realization. He understands now that he's no longer fighting a bad decision or a risky deal. He's fighting a shift in loyalty. Cammy has already chosen momentum over caution, confidence over counsel, and while she hasn't said it outright, her actions make it painfully clear that she believes she can do this without him. That belief is what finally breaks something in Tommy. Not anger, not resentment, acceptance. He sees that staying quiet won't save the company, but speaking up won't save his position either. For the first time, he's forced to consider a future where he's no longer the man holding everything together. Galliano, on the other hand, ends the episode exactly where he wants to be. Calm, collected, untouchable. He hasn't taken power directly, but he's positioned himself so perfectly that power naturally flows toward him. Cammy trusts him. The company depends on him. And Tommy is being edged out without a single official move ever being made. That's what makes Galliano such a dangerous presence going forward. He doesn't create chaos. He waits for it, then offers himself as the only solution. And episode 6 makes it clear that his influence is only going to grow stronger from here. Cooper's storyline closes on a quieter, more emotional note, but one that carries just as much weight. He may not fully understand what he's stepping into yet, but he knows his life is changing fast. Marriage, responsibility, family, these aren't distant ideas anymore. They're happening now. And while he's scared, there's also growth in that fear. Episode 6 shows Cooper finally slowing down enough to feel the weight of his choices. That doesn't mean he's ready. It just means he's beginning to understand what being ready might actually require. And that realization, painful as it is, puts him on a different path than before. What ultimately makes Landman Season 2 Episode 6 better than the entire season so far is how confident it is in restraint. It doesn't rush payoff. It doesn't rely on shock. It trusts the audience to feel the tension in silence, in glances, in decisions that can't be undone. This episode is the calm before everything breaks, the moment where everyone locks in their position without fully understanding the consequences. And as the screen fades, one thing becomes clear. The battles ahead won't be loud. They'll be personal. They'll be strategic. And they'll cost every character far more than they're prepared to lose. By the time episode 6 reaches its final moments, there is no doubt left about one thing. Nothing can go back to the way it was. This episode doesn't end with closure. It ends with certainty. Certainty that the lines have been crossed. Certainty that trust has been broken. And certainty that the damage done here will echo through the rest of the season. Tommy stands at the center of that realization. He understands now that he's no longer fighting a bad decision or a risky deal. He's fighting a shift in loyalty. Cammy has already chosen momentum over caution, confidence over counsel. And while she hasn't said it outright, her actions make it painfully clear that she believes she can do this without him. That belief is what finally breaks something in Tommy. Not anger, not resentment, acceptance. He sees that staying quiet won't save the company, but speaking up won't save his position either. For the first time, he's forced to consider a future where he's no longer the man holding everything together. Galliano, on the other hand, ends the episode exactly where he wants to be. Calm, collected, untouchable. He hasn't taken power directly, but he's positioned himself so perfectly that power naturally flows toward him. Cammy trusts him. The company depends on him. And Tommy is being edged out without a single official move ever being made. That's what makes Galliano such a dangerous presence going forward. He doesn't create chaos. He waits for it, then offers himself as the only solution. And episode 6 makes it clear that his influence is only going to grow stronger from here. Cooper's storyline closes on a quieter, more emotional note, but one that carries just as much weight. He may not fully understand what he's stepping into yet, but he knows his life is changing fast.